This channel is for educational purposes only. Please do your own due diligence before making any investment decisions. Hi, this is Joe Rabil with Invest Like a Pro, and it's Thursday's close. So for Friday morning, I'm doing a market update. I'm going to run through the market conditions overall, looking at sentiment, looking at volatility, also looking at overbought, oversold, and then going through trend and momentum in multiple time frames. And then I'm going to run through a few different indices, and just take a look at those just because of the action that we're seeing in the market. I want to give you some key levels to be on the lookout for. So let's go ahead and get into this. So I've got the market conditions on the left, and I always start from the bottom up. I look at the sentiment first. And frankly, for those of you keeping score at home, I would put this right on this line right here. It's really not neutral anymore. It's moving closer to negative. We've got 30% more bulls than bears, and the number of bulls is up to 51. Now, if we get any more strength to show up in this, where we get the bulls up towards like 55 and we get this into the 30s, anywhere in the 30s, 31, 32, with this more like in the mid 50s, then this is definitely a full-fledged negative. And we are now 83% on the 5 RSI for the weekly chart of the S&P. So you can see we haven't been up here in a while. Now, I do want to point something out about this. Overbought, oversold is it obviously is telling us when the risk of a pullback is increasing. However, when we're looking at a reversal pattern, we want to look for strength like this. This is a very bullish sign. We're showing strength to the upside. Getting overbought after forming a bottom is actually very bullish. And the fact that you don't just barely get above or reach it just barely and turn down, now we're blowing through it, right? For those of you who are subscribers of mine, you know when I talk about blowing through certain lines that are really important, that's a sign of real strength. Well, that's what's happening here in the overbought, oversold oscillator. Now, it's overbought, don't get me wrong. There is some risk of a pullback, but I think their underlying strength underneath is showing there's improvement in the conditions that are taking place. Now, if we work our way up towards the volatility, this is the key, I think, for now, especially on the weekly chart. Do you see how the volatility keeps dropping on the weekly? Every week seems like it's going to a new low. The size of these bars are continuing to be really small. That is not what we would expect. When the bars start to get big, like they are here, this line will start rising. That's a sign of risk, increasing risk. And it'll stay that way throughout the decline. And then as the volatility starts to dissipate, we start to go through more of an accumulation phase, or the distribution stops, we start to see that volatility drop. And that's exactly what's been going on here. So we need to see a sign of increased volatility before we can expect some kind of a reversal. The same thing holds true on the daily chart. We don't have that yet. In fact, we rallied up and then came back down through. It's exactly what I was thinking, or I mentioned last week, was a possibility. So if this turns up and turns this around, then we've increased the near-term risk of the market for a pullback. It could be something we're on the lookout for. If volatility increases and we stay overbought and we get more people bullish, then all of a sudden, we could see this maybe a reversion to the mean on this. In terms of looking for a big drop, even if this goes negative, all right, and even if this turns negative, I don't know that I'd be looking for a big drop. I'd be looking for a pullback in the trend right now. That's based on the way this is pushed higher and continued to kind of follow through. And again, the fact that this actually pushed through the 80 level and has worked up to 83, especially if this gets up to like 90 before it turns down, I think that's more of a sign of strength than anything. Now, we're going to need to alleviate this overbought condition, but right now, I think we got to look at the short-term trend and momentum to make those determinations. So let's go ahead and look at let's start with the monthly, because I did want to point something out here. So we're clearly above the 18-month line, okay? But this line is still falling right now. See this line is still falling? But if we stay here and we go flip over into a new month, we've got, we've still got 3 weeks left. It's pretty early in this month. But if we do that and flip over into the new month, there's a very good chance this is going to start to flatten out. As soon as this line is rising and we have a rising line here, you have to put the trend on this time frame to positive too. Okay, so we're working our way into a position where we're going to start looking at the trends being positive on all 3 time frames. We already have a weekly trend that is up. Now, I'm very reluctant to turn the momentum positive on this time frame. I know we've got decent momentum on the MACD. There's nothing really wrong on a MACD basis, but the DI line has crossed above. It's made a higher high. It is making a higher high and kind of confirming the last move, but it's still below 25. I mean, I want to see this get back above 25, and if we see that, then I feel a little bit better about this. Also want to see what the volume looks like by the end of tomorrow, by the end of Friday's action. Okay, so I did put in these channel lines, just did a parallel channel to the support line, and we do have some room based on that to climb a little bit higher before hitting any resistance, which really I would be looking at this next level up here. I'd be starting to watch at that level, but it's very possible we're going to work our way up towards this bigger resistance zone up in here, as long as the momentum conditions continue to look like this. Do you see what's going on here? So we started making a higher high here and green DI kicked in. All right, then we pulled back, made a new high, green DI confirmed. Pulled back, made another new high, green DI confirmed. Now we're kind of going sideways here. I consider this to all be a part of the same move. So I know it looks like it's kind of divergence, but I don't really view it that way. We'll have to see. I mean, if this really dies off while this keeps climbing higher, then I guess we'd have to consider that divergence. But right now, I think this is really good confirmation with a rising a rising ADX line, and the red continues to drop, and it's now below 15. So as long as we stay in that position, we can give this a chance to work its way up to this trend line. That's what I would be thinking. That's the target. And then as long as this continues to do what it's doing, we can assume we're going to head up towards this target area. If we show signs of divergence or momentum loss, then we might assume that this target is not going to be reached. So that's kind of how I would follow that. Let's go ahead and look at a couple other markets, though. The Qs are really one of the strongest, and we can see that on a momentum basis on the weekly. You see the difference between the momentum on the S&P and this? This is significantly stronger. We've had MACD strong, and we have that strong on the S&P, but we have not had this kind of strength on the S&P basis. This is also very confirming evidence, and this is confirming. So any kind of pullbacks, we'd sort of expect another test of the high or a new high from there. I didn't actually draw in. I could do that. Let's just go ahead and put that in. If I put in this line and then draw in a clone of that, and we connect this, we're actually getting up into resistance. This actually makes a lot of sense to me. This market should actually start taking a breather while the S&P and the Dow, I'm going to show you in a minute, maybe play a little catch up. We've got a lot of overbought stocks in tech land and in the QQQs. And if we get a pullback in those that are orderly while those other markets, the Dow and the S&P, continue to move higher, now we're starting to feel a lot more constructive about the overall condition of the market. That's what we want to see. We'll have to see. If we get a violent pullback in the Qs or in stocks like Apple, Microsoft, and Google, then we're probably going to end up forming a range here, and our environment's not going to be anywhere near as good. So we got to keep an eye on that going forward. All right, Dow Jones. I really want to see this break here. Let's see this break this trend line. If that does, we've got a zero line reversal here. This is basically a zero line reversal here. We've got a low ADX condition. Green is trying to kick in here. We need a little bit more strength to confirm. If we get that, then I think this is going to play some catch up. There are some very attractive patterns developing in the industrial space as well as the basic materials. Look at IWM. This is kind of the star of the week. Look at what this did. Look at the move this is making on a relative basis. This is showing real strength versus the S&P for the first time in quite some time. It's a low ADX breakout pattern. We've gotten through the 18-week and the 40-week. Now we have to come up against this 18-month line. Can it get through there? It's trying. It's 18 and a 40, really. It's trying to get through there. If it can, then we could see this maybe work its way up towards 200. But I think this is a really encouraging sign, something I've been talking about, that we need to see if the market's going to continue to move higher. I mean, if it's going to be a quick flash in the pan move, then this isn't really going to move. And this will just fail really quickly. But if this keeps doing what it's doing, and especially if we get a little minor pause and green DI holds 25 and we get that confirmation, then we can start to feel a lot better that there's probably going to be more upside in the market for now. Now, I would still consider a lot of these moves as trading moves because we're fighting the 18-month in most cases. All right. Now, there are some stocks that have turned the corner on their 18 months, and those stocks individually you can treat as longer-term trades. But generally speaking, most in most markets seem to be more of like trading moves right now. The dollar has made a pullback to major support. It went into the zone, came out, and tested this low, and now it's trying to work its way back up. Now, the problem I've got with this was such a harsh pullback. Look at how deep of overrun this was. This is almost like an oversold reading. So I'm kind of the opinion that the zero line is going to be a resistance level, and this is going to end up being a trading range and not a big turnaround back to the upside. Now, we're starting to turn the corner in oil. We've broken the downtrend and we're testing. We need a 2 to form off this low. In other words, we've got the 2 forming right now. We need a strong move through the 18, and I think that would be an encouraging sign that we're making some kind of an interim low for a better rally. But we don't have it yet, but we've got the 1 and the 2 so far. Look at the look of gold. This looks pretty interesting. We're up against these highs, and instead of violently retracing off the peak, we're pausing here. This is a nice pullback. This is not bad. There's overrun of the signal line, so yeah, this could do a little W or something like that. If it doesn't hold, so in order to trigger, we have to get back up through 2,000. If that doesn't happen and we roll down through the moving average, then yeah, this is kind of going to take a while. But if we hold this and work our way through 2,000, especially if we get a big greeny bar coming back up through, I would take it very seriously. There are some interesting patterns developing in the gold stocks. Look at what's going on into the 10-year Treasury. We had this strong move to the upside, and we've been consolidating. We had a zero-line reversal with low ADX. It hasn't really kicked in to the upside. It's more like a faltering. So I'm really thinking that we're caught in a range here. I could see this pushing up towards the 4 level. I just don't know that it's going to bust through that. I would expect this to maybe channel for now, but I don't think there's any real problem unless we take out this low at 3.25. If we do that, then there's a real top forming in rates. Not really expecting that, but that's what I'd be looking for. Okay, so we've got 3 different time frames. On the highest time frame, we've got a declining 18-month that we're running into. But if we start to look at the weekly chart, we've rallied up and pulled back to the 18-week right now. All right, let's look at this here versus this. Do you see what's going on? We're pulling back to a rising 18-week with a 40 that's rising underneath. This is kind of like in no man's land. The 40 is rising, but this is failing at this line. However, based on the way this is set up, do you see how this is gone into the zone and come out but didn't follow through? So that means if we come back up through this level here, 28, a move back up through 28, a move back up here through and holding this level after a kind of a bottoming tail would likely mean that we're going to work our way through the 18-month line and maybe push up to the next level of resistance. So that's sort of what I'm watching. I think there's enough momentum in place here for that to happen, but you don't do anything until we get a trigger. We have overrun here, but look at what happened. We went into the zone and came out and didn't go to a new low. So now I would be considering this the second signal, a move back up. Anyone who's taken my course would know that's what I'd be looking for. A move up through 28, I think, would be pretty bullish for Bitcoin. All right, that's the update for the week. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.